I know everybody asked me the question. They wanted to know what kind. I know he's gonna wild out and he's gonna do something crazy. Everybody wanted to know what I would do if I didn't win. I guess we'll never know.
Kanye Omari West is truly a man who needs no introduction. He's a polarizing artist that is no stranger to controversy with one of the most loyal ride-or-die fan bases of any artist out there. Whether you love him or hate him, you cannot take away the numerous accomplishments he holds under his belt. With absolutely no filter, Kanye speaks his mind at any given time, whether it be on Twitter, TMZ, or through his music. And if there's any piece of work that embodies this to the fullest, it's undoubtedly his self-titled album, Ye. Back in April of 2018, Kanye surprised the world by announcing that he was working on 5 new albums. These albums included Pusha T's Daytona, Nas's Nasir, and Tiana Taylor's KTSC, all of which he was doing the production for, as well as his collaboration with Kid Cudi, Kids See Ghost, and his own self-titled album, Ye. This was preceded by a rough patch in Kanye's life. For one, he had completed his St. Pablo tour back towards the end of 2016. As many of us know, this touring period was pretty shaky for Kanye. During the span of this tour, Kim Kardashian was robbed in Paris, he was catching heat for endorsing Donald Trump, he started beefing with Jay-Z and Kid Cudi, and the tour ultimately ended abruptly with him being hospitalized for a psychiatric emergency. After this, we didn't hear much from Kanye until he returned to the public eye towards the end of 2017, where he picked up right where he left off. Ye reactivated his social media, started going on his infamous rants once again, began feuding with Drake, and even dropped the song Lift Yourself, trolling not only Drake, but everyone else that had been itching to hear new music from him. With all this new activity, the hype behind new music from Kanye was growing at an exceedingly high rate. People wanted to know what he was thinking, what he had to say about the past couple of years, and some even wanted reassurance that he hadn't gone completely off the deep end. Fast forwarding to the week leading up to the release of Ye, Pusha T's album Daytona had officially released and was a huge success amongst listeners. On this album, we get a quick feature from Kanye where he once again references his Lift Yourself troll, restates his political affiliation, and gives a brief reference back to his time in the hospital. During this week, we also start seeing tons of influencers getting invited to the Ye listening party, which is unexpectedly in the middle of nowhere on a ranch in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. On release day, social media is filled with pictures and videos of everyone ranging from YouTubers to critically acclaimed artists arriving at the listening party. Kanye also drops a picture of what would become the album cover for Ye, featuring the words, "I hate being bipolar, it's awesome." This is the first insight we get to what topics Kanye may be covering on this album. Now, I clearly recollect exactly how this day went for myself as a fan, who just like everyone else was very anxious to hear this album. Throughout the entire day, I was constantly refreshing Twitter to see what new info I could find. As soon as the pictures from Wyoming surfaced, my first thought was that Kanye was definitely up to something unique. The location conveyed this feeling of isolation and focus that would undoubtedly play a role in the creation of this album. After my first playthrough of this project, I really didn't know what to think. I definitely didn't hate it, but I didn't necessarily love it either. In all honesty, I was pretty confused. I was immediately struck by the sound of the whole thing. It didn't sound well produced like a typical studio album, and it was a little jarring to my ears. I also noticed how quickly it flew by since it's such a short album coming out at just under 24 minutes. I kinda had one of those what just happened moments. Also on first listen, I didn't recognize a solid flow or singular theme to the album. It came off more like an EP or mixtape you'd find on SoundCloud or something. But my opinion and understanding of the album rapidly changed the more I listened to it. Kanye rarely does the same thing twice, so it takes time to understand the message he's conveying and the direction he's headed towards. All of what I thought were weak points quickly started to make sense, and that's when I began to realize the masterpiece that Ye truly was. This album is a pool filled with Kanye's thoughts, and the first track, I Thought About Killing You, throws you right into the deep end without any warning. The first thing we hear is this unsettling, distorted voice repeating "I know" over and over again. The song opens with the lines, "The most beautiful thoughts are always besides the darkest. Today I seriously thought about killing you. I contemplated premeditated murder." This instantly sets the mood of the song, carrying this overwhelming feeling of uncomfort for the listener. At first, it's very unclear exactly who Kanye is speaking to in this song. In parts, it sounds like maybe he's speaking to Kim Kardashian since he's talking about someone he loves, but in others, it's questionable. Although there's no confirmation on exactly who he's referring to, I personally think he's talking to himself throughout the entirety of the song. I believe the song is a representation of his bipolar disorder, which he was diagnosed with back when he was hospitalized. Throughout the song, you hear multiple voices in different pitches, giving you a feeling of panic, uneasiness, and hysteria. Effectively, you feel as if you're in Kanye's mind, surrounded by all of these inner demons shouting at you. During the second portion of this track, the beat and flow both randomly switch up, making the listener feel even more uneasy and out of control. This second beat is hard-hitting and includes Kanye screaming in the background. The vocals have a broken flow to them as if he was freestyling, leaving moments where he's not saying anything at all and just letting the beat play through. The vocals also sound louder in the mix and even top out at some points, making it sound like it was recorded on a phone or something. Overall, this whole portion of the song sounds like a demo, but effectively adds to that raw and sporadic feel that the song is already conveying. The second track, Yikes, continues in the same direction that the latter half of this last track was headed towards. Yikes also presents a very heavy and muddy beat where the bass is just punching through the track. In this song, Kanye exposes his vulnerable side, mentioning how sometimes he scares himself and needs help. Instantly, these vulnerable emotions are thrown out the window, and the superego takes over as Kanye starts spazzing out, talking about tweaking on 2CB, turning TMZ to smack DVD, not trusting his friends, being put on and off meds, and so much more. This entire song is truly chaotic and makes me feel like this is the mind state he's in when he's going off on his rants. These antics carry over once again on the next track, All Mine. This song is honestly pretty funny and has some outrageous lines in it, like the line about Tristan Thompson. The track goes by pretty quick and there's not much really to read into since the lyrics are all taken at face value. I do however think this serves a purpose to the overall album by bringing up themes of flat out lust. Kanye's been pretty open in the past about his addiction to women and pornography, and I think this song basically encaptures that struggle of his. Finally, after 4 songs of chaotic energy, the album really calms down and yet again exposes Kanye's human emotions and concerns. In both the songs Wouldn't Leave and No Mistakes, he acknowledges the impact his behavior has on his family and the burden he holds on them. He also reflects on the hardships he's overcome in the prior years and how he feels that he can't be held down. On both of these tracks, Kanye expresses his love and appreciation for his wife for sticking through it all and keeping him grounded. This is truly a sweet moment on the album and a full 180 from what we've heard up until this point. The fan favorite Ghost Town is an incredibly uplifting song. The beat and vocal performance all convey this overbearing feeling of freedom and escape from society and even the confines of your own mind. Kanye talks about wanting to be unfiltered and let everything out without bearing any secrets. He also reassures his wife, family, and himself that in the end everything will be fine and the drama will pass. This track feels like Kanye has been able to break through the cycle and be happy once again. He doesn't feel caged in anymore and can truly live in peace without the burden of society on his shoulders. This song is a perfect explanation to why Kanye decided to create and unveil this album in Wyoming. I feel that location is the physical embodiment of this song. The open space surrounded by nature, void of any unwanted human interaction, is exactly what Kanye was seeking. It allowed him to be free once again and really focus on what was truly important to him as a human. The album ends with the track Violent Crimes. In my opinion, this is Kanye's most honest and realized song he's ever created. He reflects on his current life as a father and the stressors that come with it. This song is completely rid of any ego to the point where I think any father that listens to the song would probably be able to relate wholeheartedly. As someone that in his early career had been with plenty of women and in some ways objectified them, Kanye explains how he finally sees the other side now. Becoming a father matured him and changed his life for the better. This track is a beautiful ending to the album and really leaves a final note of hope and calmness that is the complete opposite of how the album started out. After understanding each song individually, the overall idea of the album comes together perfectly. Going back to my initial critique of the project not having a solid flow or theme, I realized that I was completely wrong and that not only does this album have a solid theme, but it portrays it in a very unique way compared to any other traditional album. See, I may even go as far to say Ye is in a way a concept album. Considering the material Kanye was discussing on this project, along with the way it's structured, these songs can be looked at as portraying a manic episode, or at least a rush of thoughts that were going through Kanye's head at a given time. Stick with me here. Every detail I've explained so far can point to this thesis. The album starts off extremely dark and depressing, then suddenly, literally in the middle of the song, switches to this hyper, ego-driven boastfulness and sporadic behavior. This lasts over the span of a few songs. From this, it seems that the tension is slowly released and we're hit with 2 songs filled with self-awareness, reflection on the now, an understanding of past problems and stressors, and an overwhelming gratefulness for the loved ones that stay close even when times get dark and scary. Immediately after this comes Ghost Town, which conveys this feeling of freedom and puts forward the reassurance that everything will be alright in the end, no matter how unlikely it may seem in the moment. And finally, Violent Crime shows that after everything is past and your mind is clear once again, you have the ability to look into the future and not be so fixated on what's happening now. The fact that this album is only 24 minutes drives this theory even further. This album is so jam-packed with emotions and thoughts in such a short amount of time that after listening to the entire thing, you're left a little shaken and confused. Everything happens so fast that before you even get a chance to fully grasp what the song truly means, it's over. Some of the subject matter presented on this album is so deep that it could have an entire album of its own. I think Kanye did this on purpose. The feeling of thoughts shooting through your mind at an ungraspable rate is probably extremely frustrating, and by making this album so fast-paced and short, that frustration was able to be explained to the listener. This album may have even been a bit therapeutic to make. A lot of artists use their art to express how they feel inside. If we look at someone like a Basquiat, we can see this point being exemplified. In all of his work, Basquiat would portray political, personal, and social issues that were bothering him. These included themes of police brutality, money, and power, all of which can be found directly in his paintings. A musician is no different from this. Kanye undoubtedly was going through a hard time during the making of this album, so it only makes sense for him to use his art to cope with these pains. Also, by working on these songs individually, it probably gave him time to really sit down and analyze each of these thoughts. This album represents not only Kanye as an artist, but as a human being as well. It's by far the most self-realized piece of art he's ever released. Up until this point, so many people were speculating exactly what Kanye was thinking or what he was dealing with, and this album was the answer to all of those questions. This was better and more intrinsic than any interview he could have ever given. His artistic expertise allows for this album to be both deep and personal as well as musically sound. Even the rawness and grittiness in the mixing and mastering of this project helps convey a message. Overall, this album to me seems like an impactful point in Kanye's career. It's different from everything else he's done so far, and like most of his previous work, it'll take a bit for people to fully appreciate. I think as time goes on, people will understand the true genius of Ye as an album and give it the full credit that it really deserves. I'm very excited to see how Kanye continues to grow as an artist in 2021, and I can't wait to see what new venture he embarks on in the future.